What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the first official episode of Bucci Radio. I am so excited to share this project with you guys. You have no idea. I was kind of worried about people in college looking at me funny. I was so stoked. He told me that I complained too much. I didn't know anything about like the mecca of bodybuilding that I was diving into. I really want to do this. The coolest thing ever. $50,000. Oh my God, that's totally the rock. Oh my God, I'm like getting emotional here. What is going on, everybody? I'm just so excited to share all of this stuff with you guys because a lot of you may be following me on other social media platforms, and I think finding people on social media, you get a glimpse of your life. You don't really get the whole thing. And even just with my life, not just mine, other people's as well. People that you follow, people that are significant, people that are doing a lot, impacting a lot of people, people that you might want to hear their life story. You don't really get to see it anywhere except for if you just listen to them talk. And this is a space where you can hear other people's stories, other people's triumphs, other people's struggles, and I just want it to bring inspiration to you guys so you can apply people's stories, people's experiences, and people's life lessons to your own life so you could ignite your fire and make a change in your life and get passionate about something. So what I wanted to do for this first episode was originally put out a podcast episode interview that I had already done, and I was thinking about it, and I wanted to make sure that you guys knew who I was before I started putting out interviews with other people, only because this is my podcast, and a lot of you guys have been following me on social media, and even if you aren't following me and you just found me on iTunes Podcast, SoundCloud, somewhere else on my website, I want you to know a little bit more about me before we dive into everything else, because if you know my backstory, you understand why I want to do this podcast, and you understand why I'm interviewing all the people that I have on the podcast. So what I'm going to do is go through my entire life story from start to finish, and if you have some time, make sure you guys sit down and relax, enjoy the podcast. Again, thank you so much for clicking on it. So I'm excited to get started, but a couple of things you guys can do to help support the podcast. Of course, downloading it helps. If you guys listen to this and you enjoy it and you're looking forward to more, you can give my podcast a rating and you can give it a review if you'd like as well. That really helps the podcast out and to help it grow and to help this project reach more people. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to start by explaining where I'm from and everything. So I was born and raised in the small state of Rhode Island. It is the smallest state in the United States. You can get from the top to the bottom of it in about an hour, and a 15-minute drive was a road trip. It was a troop. So I grew up there my whole entire life, and I come from a family of four. So I have a twin sister. Her name is Lindsay. We're actually fraternal twins. I was born first. She was born second, and she has been my best friend my whole entire life. Her and I are actually pretty different, but we still support each other and love each other so much. We don't look alike. We don't look the same at all, actually. So I also have a mom and a dad that I love very much, and I grew up with them my whole entire life, and they are amazing people, and I come from a wonderful family. My mom used to be a dental hygienist, but now she works as a guidance counselor at a high school. She also used to be a teacher at said high school. And my dad is an attorney. He does criminal law. And my sister is currently working as an RN, as a nurse in Rhode Island. They're all back in Rhode Island. I currently live in Los Angeles, Southern California, in Venice, and I absolutely love it here. I moved here about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, almost, and I've loved it so much. I'll get to all of that as well. So as a kid, my parents always put my sister and I in sports. I did gymnastics, I did dance, I did soccer, I did swimming. I ended up just sticking with soccer because that's the one that resonated with me the most. That's the one that I enjoyed the most, so I stuck with that. In middle school, I started to develop something called exercise-induced asthma, and with my sports playing, I was decent at sports, but with soccer, we did a lot of running, especially at practice, and I started to notice that I was really short of breath when it came to games and when it came to practices. So I had exercise-induced asthma, so it made sports really difficult for me. And it was just that I couldn't perform with the running aspect. And with the sport that I chose, it was like all about running. So I was pretty good at it, but I wasn't amazing. And again, I had that issue. So as a middle schooler and someone like going into high school, I still wanted to be on the team and I still wanted to enjoy myself and bond with everybody else in sports, but it was really difficult to do so. In high school, I went to a Catholic high school, and in Rhode Island, the high school that I went to, it's called LaSalle Academy. They have an amazing soccer team. The female soccer team is super good, and we had a 2-week-long camp before we had tryouts. And tryouts in high school, we did a 2-mile run. and I had never run 2 miles before. And with my asthma, I was literally the last person who finished the run, and I skipped a lap. So it was like my 7th lap or something. We had to do 8 laps around the track, and I was the last person. I did 7. I didn't even complete the 8. As a kid in middle school, I was like slightly healthy, but I remember not really having healthy nutrition choices. So what I always ate was like chicken fingers and fries. I remember being like, that was the only thing that I would get if I ever went out to a restaurant. And I would always have my dad bring me to KFC, and I really liked the mashed potato, gravy, chicken finger like bowl thing that they had. It was really good. It's not good anymore, obviously, but that was like what I ate as a middle schooler. I wasn't overweight by any means, but I definitely wasn't really happy. I remember looking down at my legs in shorts, especially playing soccer, and I remember just not being happy. Genetically, I had like a more dominant lower body than upper body, and just as a kid, I remember that's kind of where my insecurities about my body kind of started, and it was kind of a negative experience. I really wanted to play soccer, and I wanted to be involved, but I just wasn't super skilled. I wasn't super talented. I worked really hard as a kid, and I wasn't good, so I actually didn't even end up making the soccer team. So from soccer, I ended up choosing to try out lacrosse. Lacrosse was a spring sport and soccer was a fall sport. So I tried it in the spring. It was the first time doing it, and I ended up just doing that. And aside from that, I remember my mom ended up putting me into a high school athlete training program at Next Level Training Center in Smithfield, Rhode Island, Johnston, Rhode Island, Smithfield, Rhode Island, if you're from the area. And it was kind of a program for kids who were in high school and middle school. It was all different age groups. It was all different skill levels, but the personal trainers at the gym would teach us kids about conditioning work. They were playing college football themselves, and I think they were also going to college to be personal trainers and studying kinesiology and exercise physiology and stuff like that. So their internship essentially was to teach high school kids about sports specific training. So we did that, and I ended up really liking it. It was kind of like a team that I was on at the gym, and we learned how to do power cleans, we learned how to squat, we learned how to do deadlifts, and we learned how to do conditioning work, footwork, stuff like that. We did some sprints outside, and it was like I was training to be an athlete, but I ended up just really, really falling in love with the gym, and it was awesome. It was a way for me to get involved, and after that, I started to connect more to that than I did to lacrosse practices and stuff. My mom got me a personal trainer, and I got really into taking spin classes with her. I got really into taking boot camp style classes with her, and it was fun because I didn't have to go alone. I didn't really go with anybody my age. I ended up just going with my mom a lot of the time, but I loved it so much, so I just kept on going, and that's kind of where I got my start in the gym. So spin classes, boot camp classes, the athlete training thing, and then my mom got me a personal trainer where I would do one-on-one personal training with her as a mid to late high schooler, I guess you could say. I specifically remember going from having the chicken fingers and fries all the time at lunch, and in the middle of my training, I ended up switching to bringing turkey sandwiches and yogurt. Like, I specifically remember having that switch of what I brought to lunch, and it was like where I kind of decided to change my eating habits and get a little bit healthier because I was enjoying the way I was training so much, and training was easy for me, but the nutrition part was hard. So I totally brought that, but I definitely still got like a cookie here and there, or I ordered some fries because I was craving it. But that was when I started to make healthier decisions in life. So I loved it so much, and I ended up following people on Instagram for bodybuilding stuff. I found workouts from girls online. I went to bodybuilding.com, and I was just like living and training and having fun. In lacrosse, it was my junior and senior year of high school, and I was decent, but I wasn't good enough to play. I ended up sitting the bench for the majority of my junior year of high school there, and it was kind of sad. I definitely realized that I wasn't skilled enough to be a starter on varsity lacrosse or anything like that, but I still loved going to the gym, and I didn't want to be a quitter, so I kept myself involved by being the bookkeeper senior year, which was woohoo, so fun. But I loved going to the gym, so I stayed healthy, I stayed active, and I stayed exercising. When college came, I was deciding on what major I wanted to do, and in high school, I was really involved in AP and honors classes, so those are like college-level courses. I ended up taking 2 college-level English courses, a college-level biology course, and a statistics course that I took the college-level class exam for. I was really into science, and somehow I always enjoyed helping people. So with the combination of science background in high school and just really enjoying that, and just wanting to help people and wanting to have a stable job, I ended up applying to a few schools. I applied to a few for just a health general background, and then I applied to my state school, which is the University of Rhode Island, for the nursing program. And they have a really great nursing program, and I ended up getting in. And it was in-state tuition. I didn't apply to anywhere that was far away from home or anything, so I figured that it would be the perfect school to go to, even though in my high school in particular, especially in the honors classes and everything, a lot of the kids went to, like, Harvard, they went to Boston College, they went to really high-level educational colleges and universities, and me going to University of Rhode Island, which was a state school, a lot of teachers and people kind of, like, looked down upon that a little bit, like, oh, you're just going to URI, like, that's just, like, the school that everybody goes to when they can't get into somewhere else. And it was interesting because it was a great school. They had a really hard nursing program, and it's not a tough school to get into necessarily for people in state. So it was kind of just like looked down upon, but at the end of the day, I was happy with going there and I really enjoyed it. But again, I loved nursing, but it wasn't necessarily what I was passionate about. I knew that I wanted to help people, and I knew that I had the science background and everything, but I didn't like go into college, going into the nursing program, being super passionate about becoming a nurse. I was just like, you know what, I'll be good at this. It has good job security, stuff like that, and it's like secured me a job for the future. I was going into college with specifically training for a job, not necessarily coming out with just a major. So I was like, you know what, structure, I like that, let's do it. College came around, and my experience was okay. I was always friendly, but I was never super popular, and I was always cool with everybody, but I was never really in the cool crowd, if that makes any sense. It was similar in college. I joined a sorority, and I'm kind of an introvert at heart, but I just wanted to make some friends, so I ended up joining a sorority. I definitely did do the party scene thing. I didn't ever do drugs or smoke or anything like that, but I did drink alcohol. That was like mainly what my college atmosphere was like, especially in Greek life as well. So my school was definitely party school, going out Wednesday through Saturday, and even sometimes on Tuesdays and sometimes day parties on Sundays was totally normal. I wanted the people to like me a lot, and I spent a lot of time worrying about what other people were thinking of me. So I wanted to become part of the cool crowd, so I always went. And sometimes it was fun, but sometimes I just honestly like didn't want to. When I joined that college, I remember immediately joining a gym freshman year that was off campus because I wanted a real gym. I didn't want to have to worry about a gym that closed during exam times, that closed at weird hours on the weekends. And I was like, you know what? I love going to the gym. I wanted to find a normal gym. So I joined a gym around my college, and I deemed it a priority. Like, working out was always a priority to me because I loved it so much. So I ended up working out like 4 to 5 to 6, even sometimes 7 times a week, starting out my freshman year of college. And I just like really enjoyed it. I always loved training, and I made sure to get it in. And my eating habits, like, I would say that they were pretty average. I would go to the cafeteria in high school because I had like a meal plan at the cafeteria, and I had a dorm room. So I stayed in a dorm room, and then my sophomore year I stayed in a sorority house. But in the dorm room, we had the cafeteria, and I would typically go there and try to get as healthy of an option as I possibly could. I would always get a salad. So I would always get a salad with chicken, maybe some croutons if I wanted, maybe some cheese and some other vegetables and stuff. I would always try to get like an egg white omelet with veggies in it. I would try to get like turkey sandwiches and stuff like that, like really healthy options, honestly. But at the end of the day, I still had a sweet tooth, and I still had my cravings, so I would eat ice cream every once in a while. Like, I would indulge in small things, but make sure that like my main meal was relatively healthy. So I was making sensible choices, but indulging here and there. I specifically remember my freshman year when I had my first anxiety attack. So I never really had anxiety or anything in high school, but in college, I, again, was trying to people please all the time. I had a boyfriend at the time, and I specifically remember going to a concert at my school, and my boyfriend was visiting with me at college, and some other friends were also visiting, and I was the one organizing the entire night, and something about it just like really triggered me and really stressed me out. And I was drinking a little bit, and I remember having an anxiety attack where I was crying and I was like hyperventilating, and it was just a really weird feeling where I felt really out of control of my emotions, and it was like really difficult to deal with because I'd never dealt with that before, and it was really kind of weird to me. And I didn't know anybody else that was dealing with it, so people kind of just looked at me like I was crazy. And I specifically remember going to that concert still. The panic attack happened before we got there, and then I pulled myself together, kept drinking actually, and I went to that concert. I had another panic attack in the middle of the concert because I was kind of still just really built up, and I kept drinking, so it just triggered it even more. And I remember the people at the concert, they took me into the drunk tank, which was fun. The drunk tank is like a place where they take the kids who get a little bit too tipsy after the concert or in the middle of it, and they need like medical attention. So they took me there, and I was okay. I wasn't that plastered or anything, but I definitely was having a panic attack, and I had to get calmed down. So that was definitely a weird feeling, and that's something that I continue to struggle with today. Anxiety is still a part of my life, and that's kind of when it started, but I like specifically remember all of that, and it was really difficult to go through that as a college kid, just trying to fit in, dealing with a lot of different things. Sophomore year of college, I started partying a little bit more, but I stayed on top of the gym. I was typically a college kid who wanted to fit in, do well in school, and also hit the gym as much as I possibly could. I did a lot of training hungover on Fridays and Saturdays, but luckily for me, with my nursing classes, I'd always have to be up early for 8 a.m. classes and for clinicals and stuff like that. So I actually use that as an excuse to not go out all the time during the week. So I had a pretty balanced life. I would be in school during the week. I was a really good student. I never got a C in college or in high school. I was just really focused on school, really focused on the gym, and would party on the weekends. The summer of that year was when I decided to do my first bikini competition. So that came about because I had a really good friend. Her name was Leah, and I had another good friend named Ashley, and they were both into fitness just as much as me at the time. Leah ended up doing a WBFF bikini competition, and I saw her do it, and I also followed a few other girls on Instagram who did it as well, and I was just like so intrigued by it. I was like, you know what? I love training, and the nutrition part is the only part that's hard for me. So if I can get that down, and this bikini competition will be like the way that I like really step up my fitness game and change my body, and it was awesome. So she actually ended up helping me a lot, and she gave me the same meal plan that her coach had given her. It was eat these 5 meals every single day. It was the same 5 meals, and it was like have a protein shake with peanut butter, have chicken and vegetables, have oatmeal and egg whites for breakfast, and have tilapia and leafy greens at night. And like that was literally it. It was like a list of yes and no foods that you can and can't have. It was just that, and I stuck to that for like the entire 5-week prep that I did, and it was really funny looking back. I guess I just didn't know any better, and I had no idea, and I just thought that more strict was better. Like I thought that the more strict that you are, the better you're off. And it worked. Like I made progress, and I stepped on stage that summer, and it was really fun. I definitely ended up getting the stage bug, but I didn't think twice because I was so desperate for changes at that point. I was looking at girls on Instagram and making their abs like the background of my phone and stuff. And I would say to myself that I will do this and I will make this change. And I was really determined to figure it out. And I figured that that would be the perfect way to take my fitness to the next level. The hardest part about that, honestly, was telling my friends and family and explaining to them what I was doing. So I had a boyfriend at the time, and he was really into going out and stuff. And we shared that bond when I was doing that in college. But when I started getting more serious about fitness and nutrition and my bikini competition, he didn't really take a liking to that because that's not what he was really into. And my family was still really confused as to why I would say that I can't have something or I can't eat something. It's not on my meal plan, so I can't have it. And it was something new. It was a new stimulus. It was something no one's ever seen before in my family anyway. And they were just really confused. It was hard for people to understand. And it was another, again, reason for me to I was really isolating myself. I was really alone, and I was really passionate about it, and I was really happy that I was doing it. But again, I was really alone. No one else around me was really doing it. It was like a select few people, but it was difficult to not really have the support of people that were really close to me. But it was really fun to watch my body change and to prove to other people that lifting doesn't make you manly. I specifically remember making an Instagram post about that. I was like, haha, look how manly I look with my awesome shredded body. I was so happy and alive, and I felt amazing. And I ended up starting my fitness Instagram around that same time as well. I was posting stuff on my personal Instagram, and I was kind of worried about people in college looking at me funny or talking about me behind my back. And I don't know, I was just kind of really nervous to post about it because I was still a people pleaser at that point. I was still someone that just didn't want to be ridiculed. I didn't want to be made fun of, and I tried to avoid that as much as possible. So I ended up starting a separate Instagram. So I had Amanda Bucci on Instagram, the handle, and I started Amanda Bucci Fit because I wanted to connect with people that liked what I liked. So I was posting stuff about my journey. I was posting stuff about my prep, posting food pictures, posting stuff like that. And people started following me and being really encouraging. And I was like, you know what? This is so awesome. This is such a good community. It was really cool to see. I followed a few other bikini competitors on there as well. The first few people that I followed were old school IFBB pros like Christy Marquez, Amanda Latona, Ashley Kaltwasser, and my now roommate, Karen Polini. I followed her forever ago when I first started getting into bikini, and she was already doing it. I followed people like Paige Hathaway. I followed like bodybuilding meme accounts, and I just dove into the fitness world, honestly. I absolutely loved it. This was honestly my hardest year ever in college. I finished my prep, and after that, in the summer of my sophomore year, I was going into my junior year, and I didn't really know how to eat or what to do after my diet ended. I ended up going back to just my regular eating habits and just being really confused. Like, I didn't know what to do and how to eat outside of my meal plan to keep looking the way I was looking. And so I still had the stage bug, and I wanted something else to keep me accountable. So I ended up doing a little diet for the Miss Rhode Island pageant that September of 2014. So I ended up placing 10th in the Miss Rhode Island pageant, and it was really fun, but it's still like, it wasn't the same. It wasn't really for me. I just loved the bikini aspect of it. I didn't like the whole extra pageant stuff that goes along with pageantry. So I just liked the dieting and the fitness part more so. But it was really fun, and it was actually a really good, it was funny that I used this as an excuse, but it was a good excuse to not go out in college, honestly. Like, I said that I was dieting, and I said that I had to prep and stuff like that, and I could just use that as an excuse to not drink, not go out on the weekends, and just do what I wanted to do. I lived with a lot of my friends in my nursing classes, and they were awesome. Like, I loved them so much. I still keep in touch with some of them, but no one really shared my passion for fitness that much, the people that I live with anyway. So I spent a lot of time stressing out over that. Again, the boyfriend who loved to go out and party, and I was just really over that whole scene. Everybody else that I was surrounding myself with wasn't, though, and I was just kind of starting to get over it. So I was really back and forth between wanting and needing to fit in and wanting to continue to work on my physical goals. So a lot of the time I felt really alone. Like, I remember just locking myself in my room sometimes and just trying to get work done or going to the gym, and I used the gym as my therapy. Like, it was my time to be alone. It was my time to be happy. It was my time to improve. It was my time to make progress, and it was fun. Like, it was a place for me to get away from everything that I felt slowly disconnected to. I felt more and more connected to training, and I felt more and more connected to the gym than I did to anything else that I was doing at the time. So I also ended up continue to use social media to connect with people, and that definitely helped, but it was still hard. I felt like I was living a double life, honestly, and the anxiety attacks, they kind of kept happening, and it wasn't really in a great place. I was just living a double life. I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't. That winter of my junior year of college, I started to do more and more research because I wanted to compete again, but I had no desire to do that meal plan again. Like, I was not about it. I was not about to give up my Oreos or anything. So I ended up finding something called If It Fits Your Macros, IFYM. I think I was on Instagram. I may have searched like healthy recipes or something, and I found a page where people said that they can eat Oreos and have it still fit their diet and fit their macros. And I was like, what? Like, how is this possible? I remember specifically posting on Twitter, like, I can have pasta and it fits my macros and I can still be on track. Why the hell did I do this before? And I specifically remember that. It's like been in my time hop a couple times too over the last few years. So I ended up figuring out my starting macros. I used an IFYM online calculator, and I just dove right into it. And I found I had so much fun playing around with macros and creating meals and making things fit. Like, I made some M&Ms fit, and I was totally like an IFYM like starter pack. Like, give me the Pop-Tarts, give me the candy, and let me figure out how I can make it all fit in all in one day and stuff like that. It was kind of funny. I found Lane Norton's YouTube channel, and through him, I also found Nick Cheadle, who is an Australian Instagram personality. He had an awesome, kick-ass Instagram account and a Facebook account, and he just provided so much information. And between him and Lane's YouTube videos, I watched Lane's videos in my kitchen with my mom, and I would just be like listening to everything he had to say. He was teaching about macros, and he was teaching about sugar, and he was talking about metabolic adaptation and like all this stuff that was kind of over my head at the time. But I was just like so excited to soak up this knowledge because I was like, you know what? This is like what I'm going to do. This is going to be a part of my fitness journey no matter what. And I was just really excited to keep learning. Like, I was a student of life at that point. So January of 2015 was when I started IFYM, and I coached myself through my first bikini competition using If It Fits Your Macros. So it was the spring into the summer of 2015. in the midst of my newfound love for tracking my macros and killing my fitness journey, I was actually propositioned by a good friend of mine in college to move to California. So she came to me and was like, you know what, I want to move, and I want you to come with me, and I want you to move with me. And I was like, hell no. I did not want to go. I had some waitressing experience, but I wasn't working much at the time, and I had no idea how I'd be able to handle moving to a different state and affording rent somewhere else when I could barely even afford rent in college. Up until that point, I had student loans to pay for college, and I didn't really have any money saved at all. Like, my family wasn't that well off, and I mean, my dad is a lawyer and my mom is a high school teacher, so we were fine. Like, we weren't like financially unstable or anything, but my dad would help my sister and I out every once in a while with food and gas money every so often, but I wasn't about to ask them to like fund a adventurous trip to California, so I had to come up with the money on my own for sure. But I honestly didn't want to go. Like, I'm the type of person, or I thought that I was anyway, who was comfortable with just being comfortable. I was comfortable in Rhode Island. I was fine, and everything in my life was just fine. And I never did anything adventurous, really. I wasn't really a spontaneous person, and I was fine. But little did I know that I could find a life that was better than just fine. Like, I just didn't know anything else. But she ended up convincing me to apply for jobs, and we ended up getting in contact with a restaurant who got a Skype interview with us, and he was like, you know what, like, I'll get you guys an interview the day you come out here, so just get out here. I'm hiring around Venice, and let's do it. So I was terrified, but I paid for my first month's rent in our apartment that we found, and we just wanted to live near the beach, and we were looking up places, and we were looking up palm trees, and we were just super excited about living near the beach, and I was looking up cool gyms, and like, that was my main priority, especially considering that I wasn't planning on taking a car or anything, and I had to figure out how to get around. And I was like, you know what, I'll just get a bike. Like, it's gonna be nice out there. I don't have to worry about any rain. I don't have to worry about any snow. It's always sunny in Southern California. So I got a bike, or I was looking at restaurants and places around there that were able to bike to. So we found a place that was really close to our job that we were getting, and I paid the first month's rent. And after I paid that first month's rent, before we moved in, I think I paid it in May, at the summer of my junior year or spring, I had $30 in my bank account, like $30. And I think I had a Coinstar, I had like a piggy bank with like coins in it and crap, where I went to Coinstar and got an extra $30. I waitressed a little bit at home like a few weeks before I left, and I was ecstatic to go there after that. It was just like a few $100s, honestly. That's all I had. After we finished school that year, I think it was probably a week later, where we ended up driving across the country. And mind you, I'm still prepping for a bikini show at this point. So we packed up her car. It was my roommate's car, the one who asked me to go. We packed up her car. I was prepping, so I would have like oatmeal that I would put in a cup with hot water and some protein. I would heat it up at the gas station, and I think I brought some sandwiches and some protein bars and like stuff like that I would just prep on, and I would eat on the drive over. And we did a 3-day drive. So the first day we drove 12 hours, and then we stopped at a place, got a cheap hotel, woke up at 6 a.m., drove again the next day for, I think it was 15 hours, and then we did the same thing, stopped at a hotel, slept, immediately got on the road again because we just wanted to get there. And then the last day was 18 hours. But when you drive across the country, you go through a couple time zones, and on the last day, we went through 2 different time zones, so we gained 2 hours that day. So we still had some sunlight, but the worst part of that drive, let me tell you, was definitely driving at night. Like, driving at night is terrifying, never mind after you've been driving for so long. But we switched off and it was fine. Once we got there, we had a small apartment by the beach in Venice, and I ended up going to Gold's Gym Venice, but I wasn't really into bodybuilding, and although I had followed a couple girls on Instagram who were bikini competitors and stuff, I didn't know anything about like the mecca of bodybuilding that I was diving into. Like, I got there and I got a gym membership, and I was like pretty alone, but I had some friends from home who were into bodybuilding, and they were like, oh my God, like Mike O'Hearn goes there, Dexter Jackson goes there, stuff like that. And I had no idea. But I did see The Rock there one time, and it was only that first summer that I lived there, and it was like the coolest thing ever. I remember him doing walking lunges in his like epic yellow shirt that says, I forget what it says on it, but he had a hoodie on, and then I was on the spin bike, and I was like, oh my God, that's totally The Rock. And it was awesome. We got there. That first day that we were there, we had the interview in person, and he was like, yep, you guys are hired. And we ended up starting work that night. Like, that night we went to start waitressing, and every single day, I think I worked 6 days a week that summer, just waitressing. And some days I worked a double, and I was so busy, guys. Like, all I had was my bike. So I would bike to the gym. I would bike to the beach, lay on the beach for a little while because it was right there. The restaurant that we worked at is called the Venice Ale House, and it was directly on the boardwalk, and the boardwalk is on the beach in Venice. And I was like so in culture shock. Like, there was palm trees, it was sunny every single day, and I had the beach right near me, and like it was absolutely amazing, regardless of the fact that I was working so hard every single day. I remember fighting with my roommate about money because I was literally like just making enough money to pay for the rent, barely enough. And we had a 3-bedroom apartment, and there was a 2-bedroom apartment, and there was 3 of us. So it was my roommate, the girl I drove out with, her cousin Lily, who ended up staying with us, and myself. I ended up sleeping on the couch a lot of the time because they both had boyfriends at the time and I did not. So I was couch ridden a lot of the time. But that summer, I also remember getting like $1,000 stolen out of my bank account. I ended up getting it back and making a claim. But like, again, I was really broke, and I just didn't have a lot of money. I was working waitressing to make rent, but it was still like one of the best summers of my life. So I ended up doing that bikini competition. I think it was a few weeks into getting there. It was probably in July, I think early July or late June, something like that. I think it was late June of that summer. I believe it was 2015. And yeah, it was amazing. I got 3rd at that show. It was my first NPC show, and I was super excited. I had so much fun. I prepped myself, and it was great. After that, it was my birthday. My family came to visit. A guy that I was seeing came to visit as well, and I ended up starting to eat a lot, and I remember not being able to stop. And that summer, I struggled a lot with binge eating. So I would eat a ton and overeat, like at a restaurant, and then I would come home and start eating whatever else was in the fridge, and my roommates would go to bed, and then I would stay up and like eat whatever else was in the cabinets, and like cookie butter and peanut butter and all of that. Like, I would just like do it in secret, and I would wake up and be like, what did I just do? So I had never dealt with that before, and it was really difficult. Like, I remember making a little calendar, and I would cross off the days that I didn't binge eat. So it was like 3 days no binging, and 4 days, and then I would do it again. And the entire month of July that summer and into August as well, that's like something that I really, really struggled with. And it was so tough mentally to go through a prep, do it all by myself. It was super fun, super awesome. And then I ended up like gaining a bunch of weight and being really puffy, and I just felt like crap about myself. Like, I felt like defeated. I didn't know what to do. But I still was like finishing the summer and waitressing and enjoying myself and stuff like that with my friends. And a lot of my friends were people that I served with at the restaurant. I remember specifically there was a guy at the restaurant who I worked with, and he told me that I complained too much. I think I was just in a really bad funk. I my whole life, I was kind of just like a complainer. I was kind of a whiner, honestly. And that really struck a chord with me. I just took it to heart, and I was like, you know what? You're right. And he was a friend. He was just one of those people that just wants the best for everybody in his life, and he's brutally honest with people. And he was brutally honest with me. So it struck a chord with me. And another thing that happened that was a big life-changing thing at the end of the summer was that I ended up meeting a pro Olympian bodybuilder. So one of the really, really big and jacked guys at the gym. If you've ever been to Gold's Gym, the Mecca, they have photos across the wall of every single professional Olympian bodybuilder, and the Olympia is like the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. They have photos of all of them across the wall, and it's like a ton of memorabilia, a ton of photos of like old school people who competed in the sport and stuff like that. And one of them trained at the gym regularly, and he asked me if I wanted to join his coaching team. I politely said yes, and I was really excited about it, and I thought it was super cool. And he said he saw potential in me, so I was excited. And he sent me his meal plan, and I had already been tracking my macronutrients for a while, and I knew enough at that point to know that it was just a cookie cutter nutrition plan. It had no personalization into it at all. I just knew it was complete and total BS, to be completely honest. I politely declined, and I texted him and I said, like, I'm sorry, I appreciate it and everything, but I'm just going to do it on my own. And he told me that I would never win a show, that I had cellulite, and that I would never make it in the industry with quote unquote that macro shit. You know what? I completely took those two things to heart, being told that I complained too much and being told in a really blunt way that I was never going to make it. So I was motivated as hell after that. So I ended up starting another prep, which I didn't know any better, that I needed some more time off probably. But starting that prep, I was back in control of my nutrition, back in control of my diet. Again, I was doing it myself. I didn't have enough money to afford a coach, but it took me out of the binging habit, honestly. And looking back, obviously, that's not the way that I recommend now for people to get out of binge eating or binge eating disorder or any overeating type of not being able to control how much you're eating type deal. I definitely don't recommend just starting a prep and doing that, but that's the direction that I took, and I just didn't know any better. And getting back in control of my nutrition helped me stop that habit. Not completely. After that prep, I still have had a couple of episodes after that, but I'll get into that later. I was excited to learn more about my body, and as I coached myself through another prep, basically I was just really excited to learn more about my body and to continue to track my macros and see how I can do it all on my own. And all I really did was I started out at a higher macro count, and then I ended up just like slowly lowering my macros each week. So I would write out like Monday my carbs are this, Tuesday my carbs are this, and I would have a high day, a medium day, and a low day. And then the next week I would do it again, but I would just lower it a little bit. And like that ended up just working really well for me. And I had no idea anything that I was doing, but I was kind of just like winging it and seeing how it would go. And it was honestly kind of easy. Like it wasn't that bad. And I looked back at it and it was amazing actually. Like I did it all on my own, and I started that senior year of college on prep, and it was really fun. So I took all of that motivation from the summer, and I took people's advice, and I took that culture shock, and I took people in Los Angeles and all the motivation. I took it and I ran with it, honestly. People in LA were just different from people in Rhode Island. It was just people were there to follow their dreams, and they were grinding to get there, and the combination of all of that honestly just changed my life forever. So moving back to Rhode Island and starting that prep, I just decided that at the beginning of that year, I would 100% make every single decision for myself. So if I didn't want to go do something, I just wouldn't. I straight up told my roommates, I was like, you know what? Don't try to invite me out. If I don't want to go, I am not going. But if I want to go, I'll totally go. And some nights I would go on prep, and I just wanted to see people, and I just like wouldn't drink. I would get either a sparkling water with like a lime in it, or I would get a Diet Coke or something like that. And I would still try to be social as I could, but I did not want to do anything that wasn't going to serve me and that I didn't want to make me happy. So senior year of college and nursing school was demanding enough in and of itself, and I focused on school and I focused on my prep, and I absolutely loved it. And the show that I did that November was the NPC New England Championships. I ended up placing first in my class, and I got second to the overall bikini title at that show, and I was so excited. That winter, I decided to do a reverse diet / bulk, and what I thought was that I wanted to just get my calories up as high as possible in order to potentially not have to cut on as low as calories after that, and that didn't end up working out, honestly, for me, but again, I'll talk about that in a little bit. I knew that I wanted to go to nationals this upcoming year because I qualified, and I was like, you know what, let me try to find a coach. Going back to Lane Norton, who is the person who taught me everything about macros, I was like, you know what, like, let me just email him. Like, let me get his email, see if he would coach me. And he got back to me, and I was so excited that he emailed me back, but his rates were just a little bit too high for me waitressing part-time in college, and I just didn't have enough money for that. So I ended up finding somebody else. Through him, he recommended someone named William Grazione, who was one of his good friends. William has been my coach for the last 2 years, and he is absolutely wonderful. So I started working with him in winter of 2015 into 2016. I started my prep for the next show, the end of my senior year of college. It was right around March where I started that prep, and I was in the middle of that getting into the fitness business a little bit more. So I started working with a company as a brand ambassador, and I was using my Instagram following. I think I might have had like 5,000 to 10,000 followers that winter or something like that. It was like growing. It was going good. It was just on Instagram or anything too. I wasn't on YouTube or anything yet, but it was really fun. So I was using that and getting really into the fitness social media world, and I was excited to start another prep. With that, I also was getting a lot of people asking me questions about how I did what I did, and I did everything on my own, and I spent a lot of time researching on my own. So with my science and nutritional background in science in college, I was able to understand things more clearly. And if I didn't know the answer to something, I would look it up. So that's what I mean when I say I've done a lot of research on my own. Like anything I didn't know about training blocks, I learned about how to program training, how to structure training, more things on nutrition. Any questions that I had, I would like listen to YouTube. I would listen to articles on bodybuilding.com, everything like that I didn't know, I would just try to find the answer to. So with that, I ended up answering questions for people quite often. I would go on Instagram and respond back to DMs. I would respond back to emails, and I was like, you know what? I can make some money doing this. And I was waitressing part-time, and I was like, maybe I should start up coaching because people were coaching and stuff, and I ended up doing that. So I had a few clients. I took them on, and it was so fun. It was so rewarding seeing people change and seeing people get happy based off of me being able to help them, and it was awesome. I learned a lot from my coach, William, especially in that first prep that I did with him, and I just kept asking questions. He kept answering them back, and he gave valid explanations and scientific research behind everything that he was giving me. And it was just amazing. Like, I was learning so much, and I was so passionate about it. Like, you have no idea. But I knew that I wanted to move back to California that summer, and it was the end of my senior year, and I was coaching people. I was finishing nursing school. I was so busy, and I was prepping for another competition. I was just so busy, and I wanted something else to sustain me financially in order to move across the country and not have to be super stressed about taking more clients in the middle of a prep. So I ended up creating the Everything Guide to Macro Tracking because I just saw a demand for it. I was like, you know what? I know a lot. I have a lot of information at this point. Let me just create something that people can buy because it will just help me have something that people can have that they don't have to go through coaching for me for. So I did that in April of 2016, I believe. Yeah, April of 20, something like that. Regardless, I came out with that, and that was April, and then I graduated in May with my nursing degree. I have my Bachelor's of Science of Nursing from the University of Rhode Island, and 2 weeks later, I moved to California, and I moved there permanently. I still had no friends at this point. I moved there. I was so excited to finally be there. I got back into Venice. I went back into Gold's Gym, and I was so pumped to be like a regular, and I got back there, and I was competing, and I ended up doing a few shows that summer. I went to a national show. I didn't place at the national show, but I did another local show, and I won the overall bikini title at that show. I did another national show where I ended up actually meeting my friend Emily Hayden there, and she was my first friend in California because she lives there as well. But I was still really isolated when I got to California. Like, the first 4 months of living there permanently, aside from the girl that I lived with, my roommate Lily, I knew her from when I worked at the restaurant the previous summer, but she was really busy at the restaurant a lot, and she was managing that restaurant, so she wasn't really home very often, and I was coaching and studying for my nursing boards at home a lot. So I was pretty much just home alone and going to the gym, and that was it. Like, I had no friends, nobody really around me, and I was just trying to make it, and I was just trying to keep doing stuff. And I saw some people starting a YouTube channel, and I was using Instagram primarily to help get more information out there, and I figured that captions on Instagram just weren't really doing the trick for me, to be completely honest. So I started using YouTube to put out more informative content, and that's where the ball just really started to get rolling. I was loving posting content on YouTube, and I made a few more friends in California. Definitely mostly just through competing. I was friends with Emily. Her and I hung out all the time. And Emily was working with a company back in August. And I remember going to the Anaheim Fit Expo. It was about an hour drive away from where I lived. And I didn't know anybody except for Emily. I went there. I met up with her. She was working at that booth of the company that she was working with. And I ended up just putting myself out there and asking them, like, hey, do you guys need any more people to work at your booth at the Olympia? And they ended up saying yes. So Emily and I ended up going to the Olympia together. And that's like when I really kind of got my break. Like, I worked at the Olympia. I met a few people there. I ended up meeting Lane Norton for the first time there. You guys will hear that story in his interview as well. I was like so happy about coaching, and I was financially sustaining myself through that. And it was just like such a great time, honestly. And from there, I remember specifically that bodybuilding.com was having their spokesmodel search entries right around that time. I had wanted to enter for about a year. I saw Lacey Dunn, who entered the previous year, and we were on Team PE Science together. I ended up signing with Team PE Science that summer as well. And I was like, you know what? Like, I really want to do this. Let me make an entry video. I had a good friend named Leah help me with the entry video, and I ended up getting in the top 20, and then I ended up making the top 10, and I was just like so stoked. Like, you have no idea how excited I was. It was like a huge breakthrough. I was like, you know what? I get to be involved with the biggest company in the fitness industry right now. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. This was a big life-changing moment for me, guys. I was studying for my nursing boards, and I still had intentions to be a nurse. Like, I graduated from college, and I was like, along with my coaching job over the summer, I also worked at a surgical center. I had a friend from Rhode Island. She was a nurse out here, and she got me a job interning at the surgical center. And from there, they were going to hire me once I passed my board exam, which is a national board exam. All medical professionals have to pass this exam in order to safely practice. So I wasn't working as an RN yet, and my head was just not in it anymore, guys. Like, my passion wasn't there anymore. I was passionate about something else. I was focused on something else, and I just didn't have the desire to study. So by the time I was able to take the exam, I didn't pass it. I crammed for it. A lot of information left my head. My heart wasn't in it. My head wasn't in it, and I didn't pass it. And from there, I had to make the decision, like, do I continue to study for this exam again, to pursue this career, or do I continue to move in the direction of my dreams? And that's when I just decided, like, you know what? This is the hardest decision I'll ever make, but I'm going to do this full time. I don't know how. I think I can continue to sustain myself with coaching. I can continue to get clients. I can continue to help people. And I just love it. Like, I couldn't imagine myself doing that and focusing on nursing. Like, I just wasn't focused. My brain wasn't there. My heart wasn't there. My head wasn't there. My family wasn't super happy about it, especially my mom. She had a hard time understanding me not going through with it, but I ended up doing it, and I ended up making $50,000 in 2015 just from coaching alone. Coaching and then some commission from supplement companies. And I pursued it full time. And that was almost a year ago at this point that you guys are listening to this, the end of January 2017. In January 2016, I did the bodybuilding.com spokesmodel search. I was gaining a lot of traction on Instagram. I was gaining a lot of traction on YouTube. My YouTube channel was slowly growing. I think I had about 6,000 followers in January of 2016. And I got in the top 5 and I got signed by bodybuilding.com. I was on Team PE Science. I was just so excited and happy about my career in the fitness industry. I think I had like 50,000 Instagram followers, and things are just going in the right direction, guys. Like, I was so stoked. It was amazing. It was an amazing feeling to work for yourself, have your own hours. I started to make more friends. I started to meet more people. I started to connect with more people. I was able to have more opportunities to go travel. I ended up starting to work with a few other different companies. The Pardomas, we started traveling and doing workshops around the country. I started another prep with my coach, William. I started a YouTube series called That Prep Life on YouTube, where I documented everything about my prep, my body fat percentage, my macros, my training, my cardio. I was using it as motivation and inspiration for you guys. I was using it as an educational platform. I was using it to teach people what I was doing and to show people the healthy way to do things, the right way to do things. And my socials just blew up. Like, I think a lot of people don't really realize where you start from. And I kind of forget, honestly, until I re-record this life recap, to be completely honest. It wasn't always successful. It was always a bumpy road. And I didn't always have things together. I didn't always have a lot of friends, but with the social media growth, with me putting myself out there, with me pursuing my passion, I was able to meet more people, connect with more people, do more things, have more opportunities, take advantage of said opportunities, do everything I possibly could to put myself in the position to become successful. And in 2016, I ended up making over 6 figures for the first time in my life. And I was just like, I can't imagine going back to anything else. Like, oh my God, I'm like getting emotional here. Yeah, it's been a ride. It's been crazy, and there's still struggles. There's still up and downs. There's still things that I can improve upon as a person. There's still things that I can improve upon as a fitness and social media person. I still struggle with anxiety, especially with having a lot of people watching me and looking up to me. I feel a great sense of responsibility to use my platform for good and to always constantly be a role model as much as I possibly can. So here we are, a year later, and I'm starting a podcast. I own my own business. I am a sponsored athlete with multiple amazing companies and doing my own thing. And I want this podcast to just be inspiring for you guys. I want you to hear stories from people who might have a story maybe similar to mine, maybe different to mine. Everyone has their own story, and you have your own story as well. And I hope that you can take the life lessons learned in everybody's story and apply them into your own life so you can ignite your fire and ignite your passion for health, fitness, or for whatever you're doing in your life personally. It doesn't have to just be for health and fitness, because a lot of the health and fitness lessons and a lot of the things that you learn mentally and physically as you go through a fitness journey, you can apply to everything else in your life as well. So thank you guys so much for listening to me talk about my life for 50 minutes. I am very happy and excited to share this podcast with you, to share this project with you. Make sure you guys leave me a review if you're enjoying it, if you're excited for it. And I'm excited to build a community of people who listen to this podcast on their weekly basis. So thank you guys so much for listening again. And I will catch you guys in the next episode of Bucci Radio. I'll be coming out with these once a week for as long as I possibly can. So I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for listening.